This episode of FilmRiot is brought to you by Domain.com. Today we dive into a pool of sound, not literally of course, though that would be a touch of awesome. Welcome to FilmRiot, the show that takes mystery out of the effects and techniques going to some of your favorite Hollywood films. I'm your host, Ryan Conley. Off the bat, I'm going to get sidetracked. We just did a game on Film State that I thought was a lot of fun, and I think you guys might dig it too. It's the IMDb movie game, which you can play along with. Tons of fun. So if you want to check it out, go here. But yeah. What's this? Love losses, and especially the sound. Really hoping you do an episode on what went into creating the sound for losses. We have covered some Foley and whatnot in the past, but still, I think a behind-the-scenes look at the audio I did for losses may be of help to some of you. So first thing I do when starting audio from a project is to sit down and watch it with a pen and paper. Of course, what I'm watching is the final edit. So I watch through the edit and I start jotting down all the sounds I'll need to create through Foley and which ones I can get from a sound library. And I'll watch the project about 4 or 5 times in a row to be sure I don't miss anything, and I'm writing everything from footsteps to gunshots, even something as little as the sound of a clothespin hitting the table. Once I'm done with that, I start with the bigger sounds first. Most of these I can get from a library or have already made myself, like the gunshots, which I used a combination of sounds I made myself, and some I have from a sound effects library. Or the punch sounds, which was also a mixture between sounds I made myself and some from a library. Now, everyone has their own method, and I personally like to keep everything clean and separate. Then I bring it all together in the end. So I render the video out from Premiere, then I bring it into Audition to use as my reference. Next, I start laying in my library sounds, then mixing them and adding EQ and reverb to help them match their environment as much as possible. After I finish up with that pass, I move on to Foley, which are sounds that I will create from scratch using an assortment of things. I actually did a whole episode on Foley in the past, which you can find right here. In that episode, I give you a pretty good way to create your own punching sounds, so check that out. Now just grab a stick and whack away. But for losses, some of the more fun Foley sounds I made was the sound of stabbing Bruno, the one of the pool stick breaking, and where Josh stabs Nick with the pool stick. Half the fun of Foley for me is finding the sound, going through different things, looking for that perfect sound for what you're looking for, and then that awesome aha moment once you hear that sound. For the sound of Bruno getting stabbed, I tried a few different things, including stabbing a few different types of fruit with a similar object to the paperclip, but what ended up doing the trick for me was 2 sounds. One, the sound of me jerking a fork back and forth inside of a potato, and the second sound was me stabbing a spoon into a jar of peanut butter. Once I had them recorded, I picked a few I really liked and used them for the different stabs. I also had the peanut butter sound getting louder with each stab since I wanted it to sound a bit more wet with each one, so it felt a bit more gory every time, like the blood coming out onto his neck. 2 of my other favorite sounds to create were involving the pool stick, one where it breaks, and then the one where Josh stabs Nick. For the break, I used a lot of different sounds, I think 8 in total. One of them was me snapping a stick, one crushing thin pieces of wood, a hanger whipping past the mic, snapping a belt together, crumbling some wood chips onto another wooden top, and a few other things like it. But it still sounded a bit empty, so I put away the obvious and started looking around my house for sounds. And funny enough, the thing I found to finish off my sound was a bag of salad. This added an extra crunch I needed, just whipping the salad this way and that, still inside the bag, which is a big reason why I love Foley. You really never know what it is that's going to get you that sound that you need, so keep an open mind. And just to push that thought a bit further, for the sound of Nick getting stabbed in the back, I once again used my bag of salad, but also added sounds from my own mouth. Which I felt absolutely ridiculous while doing, and Josh and Stark were looking at me like I was crazy, but it worked perfectly.
This feels stupid.
So if you want to add Foley to your film, just keep an open and creative mind in the process. But now, a quick break, and we'll talk a bit about ADR and my recording setup.
What are you fart baskets doing?
Trying to come up with a new ad for Domain.com.
For FilmRiot.
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 How long have you been in here?
3 days.
FilmRiot.
Seriously?
Domain.com and FilmRiot.
How hard could it possibly be?
Harder than you think.
It has to be both comical and informative.
Make you giggle while pointing out how Domain.com's easy checkout process makes it simple to find domain names and set up a website.
Plus, point out that domain transfers to Domain.com are only $7.61. And if you use the promo code FilmRiot, you get 15% off your domain purchase or transfer.
That's only $6.47 for a domain transfer.
No I know math.
Wait, I've got an idea. Josh and Stark can be standing outside, and I'll come out all like, "Hey Stark, you should use domain.com," and he'll be all like, "Nah." Then I pull out my samurai sword and start hacking him into bits, while Josh is all like, "Oh sweet God, open your cloud of mercy and stop this!"
That's morbid.
And it has nothing to do with domain.com.
Did you miss the exposition where I told him to use domain.com?
That's not exposition.
And it's morbid.
You just say things that I say.
What?
I say things that are good, and you say dumb things.
It's 2 times. Hurt my feelings today.
I got another idea.
I don't want it.
I'm curious.
Josh is on the computer getting a domain from domain.com, and all of a sudden, a little ninja comes up and starts hacking him into pieces with a samurai sword.
Don't piss off little ninjas.
That's worse than the last idea. You killed me even though I was already using domain.com.
Yes, but you didn't use the promo code FilmRiot. Bam, marketing.
Nice. Not nice.
You're impossible to please.
No, I just want a good idea.
Then just do an ad about trying to come up with an
We
ad.
did that already.
Not with me.
True.
It's genius.
Could go viral.
No, it will go viral.
It will! Yes!
Yes!
Yes! This is the one for me! I'm living in it!
Yeah!
Whoa! Yeah!
Birthing, Emily!
I'm confused. Did we already shoot it?
Logo. Welcome back. Now on to recording. And my setup for recording was super simple. I didn't use Pro Tools since I wanted to give Audition a try. For the mic, I just used the same shotgun mic we always use for production sound. And I ran the shotgun mic to my H4n Zune, which I use as an interface for Audition. That's it. Then I recorded straight into Audition, and I was very impressed with it. I love how it's set up to mix and work with effects so much more than soundtracks, and for quick turnaround work, I think it's a great alternative to Pro Tools. One of the things that impressed me most was the noise reduction. For the final scene in Losses, there was an intense hiss in the audio from the room that we were shooting in, and it ended up being pretty distracting. So I brought that audio into Audition, then used their noise reduction process by applying it, then selecting a section of just noise, setting the noise print, and this tells Audition what frequency the noise actually is so it can single it out. So now I can select the whole track and tweak the parameters until I have what I want. And to show you the difference, here's a before and after.
No hard feelings with all that. Consider it a test. No hard feelings with all that. Consider it a test.
Of course, you have to be careful how far you push this or you'll start getting these obvious digital sounds. But even with all the post work you can do on audio, there's still some things you just can't salvage, and for that we have ADR, which again, we got into deeper in an older episode, so check that out here. And again, this was a super simple setup. All I did was have Todd go under a blanket so we could cancel out as much room noise as possible, which was helpful and amusing.
I just want to say
Screw it.
to my parents,
Screw it.
I'm sorry. Well, I need snot.
Now for Losses, I originally intended on doing a lot more ADR than I actually did, since there are a few times where the production sound would peak.
For all the money I put into you.
But once I started doing my ADR, I realized that in one or two particular moments we were losing the intensity of the performance with the ADR, so I decided to let it go for the sake of performance in those two sections. And this is something that you'll have to decide on your own, which is more important to you. But for me, the emotion was a lot more important here than the technical. But there you go, a behind the scenes look at the sound of Losses. Now, Losses was a quickie shoot, done for a little amount of money and in a little amount of time. Some stuff did suffer for this, like the final mix of the audio for the film, since I had to record all the Foley, grunt passes, and so on, then do my final mix all in the same day. In all honesty, I think the audio for Losses came out just passable. I would love to have a few more days to work on the sound, but that's how things are in this industry. You have a deadline and you do what you can up until that moment. One of my favorite sayings is, a movie isn't finished, it escapes. And it's so true. But why am I telling you this? I think there are a lot of scenes and moments in Losses that are not as good as they could have been, and it's due to the sound not being 100%. So make sure you spend the proper time on your audio when you're working on your film and post. The great thing for most of you is that you don't have a deadline. Your project is done when you want it to be. So be sure you give your sound the TLC it deserves.
Logo.
So that's it, my friends. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/Ryan_Conley if you do so choose, or our Facebook page for some delightful delights. And if you're interested, check out my Trying Films Facebook page. We just put up a bunch of new filmmaker t-shirt designs, and just like last time, we want you to help us decide which ones we're going to make. So jump over there and vote for the 2 you like most by liking the pictures of those shirts. The 2 that get the most likes will be the one that we put into production right away. So go there, check it out, let us know what you think. And I'll see you guys next time when some friends and I make a spaceship that looks like an old shack, and then we fly it into space just to find some aliens who are teenagers too. Look at that.
Yes, it will! What?
I was like...
Who's your good guy? Who's your good guy? Who's my little guy? Who's my little guy? You are an angel.
I am.